Hey, everybody. Welcome to Improv FAQ at Length. This is a show where we talk about improv topics. We have longer conversations about improv topics.
We talk improv. Yeah.
I got to change that intro because we've been doing so many things that are like either improv adjacent or that people don't necessarily have a lot of questions about, but would make a good conversation. So this is Improv FAQ at Length, where we talk about improv and improv adjacent topics that we happen to be curious about.
This is, Improv FAQ, where Bob and James talk about whatever you want.
Yeah.
So what did you have for breakfast?
Dude, actually, well, you...
I'm interested. Yeah.
Don't throw away bit and we can move on with our lives. But Julia baked homemade bagels last night, and Nicole and Donnie and their Nicole's new roommate Sean, who she partnered with on the 10x10 album. She just moved in with Nicole, and so we just had our first like get together with Sean in town, and with Nicole and Donnie and Julia's homemade bagels. Why? What'd you do, Bob?
Nothing. I found some no carb granola. I don't know. it was good. The Solo brand. Only at Meyer. Check it out. No carbs, all the taste.
Yeah.
Not a sponsor.
Well, so for this episode, we're very excited to talk to members of Go Comedy's most recent launch group, The Bureau, and their self-titled album, sketch comedy album that just got released today. And let's bring them on. It's Lauren Arnett and Alan Smock.
Hey,
and Eric Tamar. Hey, everybody, welcome.
Hi.
Hi.
Well, thanks so much for joining. A handful of members of the team couldn't make it to have a conversation, but that's okay. With you guys representing, we'll talk about the album you just released. Did it just release today, or was it yesterday, over the week?
Tonight, yeah.
Just today?
Over the night, yeah.
Okay.
Midnight release.
Oh, nice.
So it's midnight. It's not available yet, or it is?
No, it's it released midnight today.
12 a.m.
12 a.m. today.
First minute of the day. Yeah.
Okay.
As you're hearing it, you can purchase the album.
Gotcha.
Yes.
So congratulations on releasing the album, and I'd love to talk about the story behind how it came to be and all the work that went into it. So somebody just take the lead here on the story behind how you guys got started on a sketch comedy album.
I don't remember.
It was like 8 years ago.
Yeah.
It was back around the time when the 10x10 album was launching. I think we were talking about like, okay, well, what could we do potentially to contribute to the to Go Comedy, and to like also just do something creatively on our own while we're stuck at our houses. So at some point we met, and just the idea, I guess, of an album, like, why don't we just make an album, came up.
And we were already sort of writing together because we were planning on making a show to go up on. We thought stages would exist, so we're thinking of writing a stage show.
Because let me think. So you guys had your season cut short by like 3 months or something like that.
Something like that.
When would have been your last show? Like June? I don't know when the
Father's Day.
Father's
It's going to be a big Father's Day show. We had a lot of dads coming. They're gone now.
All the dads.
They all got COVID.
And then a quick shout out to Chris Peterson, and also thank you, Chris, for
Big Cat Daddy.
Thank you, Chris.
Comments. So if you are interested in scoping out the Bandcamp, which it is, I should say, exclusively available on Bandcamp, and all the sales are going to go to supporting Go Comedy, which I know you guys mentioned, but just to be clear that it's exclusive to Bandcamp. Okay, great. So, yeah, and actually, I think speaking of Chris, he said around the time that we got started with the 10x10 albums, he said that independently, you guys had a conversation with him about doing a sketch album. So I think they were unrelated, but it makes sense because it's such a like you said, Alex, it's a common thing for improv troops coming up on the close of your run to like start working on a sketch, and if you don't have a stage to put it on, then it's of all the different opportunities.
Yeah, do a virtual stage.
Yeah. Having to go virtual. I love the sketch comedy format as an option for doing that. And so I was excited to hear that you guys are working on that medium as well.
Now, just as a background, did any of you, when you were coming up, did you listen to any comedy albums like the Adam Sandler's or any of that kind of sketch stuff growing up?
I remember liking the Norm Macdonald Ridiculous sketch album a lot. Like there was a few things on there that just still stick out to me now that just were very funny. So I kind of like that sort of idea of a sketch album.
Yeah, I have a couple National Lampoon sketch albums that I listened to. Don't all hold up perfectly. They're good.
Oh, they're like 40 years old, 50 years old.
Yeah, I don't know why it's not more common, because if you look up sketch comedy albums, you get like you might find like a best of list of greatest sketch comedy albums of all time, and it's all like Cheech and Chong and live recordings of like Abbott and Costello and Monty Python and stuff, and then some of like the Adam Sandler stuff and Norm Macdonald's sprinkled in through like the 90s, but it's really not that common, and I feel like it should be more common.
You can do so much with audio that you can't with video. Like you don't have to secure a location, you don't have to like do a whole big production.
Wardrobe, all that stuff. You don't have to think about it.
Yeah, for sure. So, and then how many of you had experience doing like voiceover voice acting, or how many of you this was like first time doing that kind of stuff?
Yeah, this was my first time.
Yeah, first time besides like podcasts, I guess, as far as like doing some character stuff on like podcasts, but this is the first time, doing something scripted. For an album. How
was that, Jared? Like, just kind of.
It was good. It was very different. I don't know. Whenever like I grew up watching like behind the scenes of like animation stuff, you see like people doing voiceovers and like moving their body and stuff, and I'm like, why do they have to do that? They're not. No one's watching that.
No one sees them. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know. I found that you do kind of still have to like get into that like character and like kind of get into that physical character in order to do voiceover stuff. So I found that was a very interesting part of the process.
Yeah. And then how was it? Did you guys have any small get-togethers to actually record in the same room? Was everybody recording remotely?
Yeah. So the way we did it, and we had first actually me, Bergs, Devin, and Jared had attempted this with we had started a podcast called Snork and Mindy. We only recorded like 2 episodes.
You'll probably never.
We never released it. It's never been released. But it was where we were going to watch an episode of the Snorks and then watch an episode of Mork and Mindy and then argue about which one was better.
You didn't have to explain it. It's all in the name.
So, but essentially what the process was is like we had started our own like Discord server. So we can all just at any point just pop into a room at any time and just chat if we wanted to, or talk about different things and just kind of stay connected. So the process that we actually had for that for the album was we would join the Discord. We all recorded separately on our own computers, but we joined the Discord room so we could all hear each other. And we brought a bot into the Discord room that could like record it.
Oh, okay.
That way and then we like all would clap so we could like sync all the different tracks, and then we just acted out the scenes, did like a few takes, and then just synced the audio that we recorded that was like the good audio on our computer and synced it with the Discord audio just so it all lined up pretty well, and then just edited it from there.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you at least had some kind of like feeling of working on it together in Discord space.
Yeah, it wasn't like we were just like saying the lines by ourselves and not knowing how the other person was going to read their lines. It was a good give and take, and we could stop between the takes and go, "Hey, could you do this, with a little bit more energy, or could you read the line a little more like this," or stuff like that to kind of help the process. And I think it worked out pretty well.
I love stories like these because I've had so many conversations with people who had ideas for projects but didn't understand like the mechanics of how to get it from page to whatever medium they're trying to use, and they always get so disheartened and they don't just take the extra step. So even just doing something as fun and silly as Smork and Mindy, just to get like your foot in the door of how to record these things, I just love that story. And Carrie Sue would like you to release these. So I mean, it was her birthday, and she doesn't ask for much, guys.
Release the tapes.
Release the tape. Release the Snyder cut. That's what I'm saying. Do it.
The most messed up thing was that Mork and Mindy episode was like an hour long, and then the Storks episode would be 12 minutes long.
I thought you were going to finish it and just crush them. Those little guys in 20 minutes can do more.
I was pro snort.
Devin, how was it? You said it's also your first experience with the voiceover approach to sketch. How was it recording, isolated and all that?
I had a lot of fun doing it. Although my biggest regret is I finally got one of those things that block the, I don't know what is it called, Alan?
A pop filter.
Pop filter. I finally got it after we recorded everything. But
recorded everything.
I think I wish I had stood up more. That's another regret. Well, I was doing everything in a chair. And but I had a lot of fun, and I was doing a lot of hand acting. I don't know if anyone ever saw me on camera doing it, but there was a lot of hands.
Oh, I saw.
Oh, you saw.
He did so much desk work that I was constantly having to he'd like smacking his hands on the table. I had to do a lot of editing that out.
For Ancient Hank in particular was the most difficult. I was screaming too loud into the mic.
Yeah, we had to do it completely re-record that sketch because like his whole thing is like attack and dethrone God, and like just blew out the speaker.
And I would have the distance going, but I'd get into the acting, so I'd end up with like my mouth right on the mic, like screaming into it.
That's awesome. Lauren, can you tell me a little bit about like the writing process? What I know Alex mentioned that y'all were thinking about writing a sketch show before moving things over to a sketch album, but did you have stuff written? Did you start from scratch? What was the process like?
Personally, no, I didn't have anything written before the album. I think there was a little bit of writing before. So I just wrote this sketch specifically for the album. Yeah.
Did everybody write? Did everybody write on it? Were there some people that were just actors?
We mostly wrote our one or two, and then we did read them with each other and contribute a little bit to each other. But there was no like major. I don't think there are a couple sketches that are like written by two people, and then the through line, the framing device was written, I think, by Alan and Bergs altogether, the majority of it. But for the most part, we individually at least wrote one sketch that we contributed.
Cool. Awesome.
That's really cool. For the group, did you have an easier time because you just got off of almost a 1-year run working with each other every week for, on stage? Or was it a little hard because you're used to being in the same room with the same people? Like, did you have any difficulties not being in the same room, or, because you're so used to their presence? Or
I think if we were trying to improvise the whole album, it would have been way more difficult like that. But the fact that it was like all written out, I think definitely helped it.
Okay.
Like we could just sit and read the lines.
Yeah, well, I imagine that again, having worked with each other for a good stretch made it easier for you to give notes remotely, because we all know that, you know, it's very easy to misread the tone of text. So
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
that could get for a group that doesn't know each other very well, trying to exchange notes and feedback with each other. But yeah, I love the through line, which is, well, Alex and or Alan, since you guys worked on it together, can you give us a description of what the framing is for the album?
It's we tried to make a bureau based on our name. Sort of like a dumb version of a Kafka novel, like some bureaucratic labyrinth that some guy's in, as a framing device for a concept where everything is like found, not footage, I guess, found audio.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they're it's like forensic, it's surveillance files. Surveillance files, right?
Yeah. Like audio, like the whole concept essentially is that this guy has been hired to to take like digital or analog tapes and then digitize them like into a computer, so the guys above can like listen to them for whatever reason. But they're all dumb. It's like all dumb stuff. Like it's it's dumb shit he's listening to, not like anything like important, and that like kind of slowly drives him crazy over time. But initially the idea was just to really the main synthesis of it was we wanted a way where we could record sketches and we knew that the sound quality wasn't going to be like super great. So we were like, what if we made it so it's like surveillance or like found recordings, because the quality on those wouldn't be great. So if you're just listening, if those are the sketches and they don't sound great, oh well, you can just explain it away like, oh, they wouldn't sound great. Why would they sound great?
Yeah, right. Yeah. I thought that was a really smart way to, I guess it would be like the suspension of disbelief thing, right? Is that like, it can be so tough with audio, especially now, again, without being able to record in the same room. But once you give that a justification, it's like you have free license to just do whatever sounds in the vein of what you set up. And I thought that was a really nice device to take away any of that listener's critic ear. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I do feel like before we did the album, our improv set sort of leaned towards humor involving municipal governments and like mundane office politics and stuff like that. And so this kind of lined up with what we tended to go towards anyways.
Yeah. I the opening and closing monologues are really nice. Sets the tone, sets the genre, and sets up like a really nice philosophy for the what the sketch is and why you're framing it that way. So I guess we can kind of treat this like a show and tell, because Bob and I have been doing a series of show and tell episodes where we talk about shows we were part of and what we learned from them. And this is a little bit different because you're releasing a permanent piece of content, but the process is done with. So we can talk about a few things that we typically talk about on those types of episodes. Number one being like, what was the biggest what did you learn in the process? Like highlights of things that you learned while working on it for each of you. And that could be like skills that you picked up with the audio and the things, or just like acting epiphanies, approaching it from this angle or anything like that.
I will say, kind of an extension of the question you originally asked me. I did become more acutely aware, and being able to like hear recordings of you saying lines, became more acutely aware of like how I was delivering things and the timing and the pacing. In particular, Miranda's sketch with the bees. That one I know was that one I was like very self-conscious about my specific timing on that, because I had to play such a serious role, but then like kind of have that quick comedic turn. But that was very interesting. I think it'd be very helpful to even for like stage shows, recording myself acting scenes and being able to actually listen back and really hear how I was delivering things.
Yeah, I feel like that's the same for me. Like, I will go out of my way not to have to hear or see something that I've done. So to have to like critically listen to recording of myself was helpful. And like I think I have a pretty monotone voice, so being able to actually hear like when I think I'm going over the top, it really is like. It's like it's helpful to listen to yourself, and especially with audio, like over the top is not over the top, if that makes sense. Like being able to portray something through audio, you have to go like so much further. It's a different skill.
Yeah, especially if you are a physical player, or you rely on just little things like gesture and facial expressions or whatever. Yeah, you really have to get it across just in the audio characteristics. Yeah. Anyone else?
I thought it was just a really interesting part of the process to kind of, just act in something that was also being directed by who wrote it, because the way the process worked, kind of everyone was directing their own sketch in a way. So that was something I don't think I'd ever been a part of, where the director was also the writer. So I don't know, it's just a really interesting process to try to get to as close to the like source material as it was like originally intended to be by whoever wrote it. So I don't know, that was just a really interesting thing, kind of how on your like first reading of the sketch isn't necessarily how it was intended to be read by you, but kind of getting to the final product was real interesting.
Yeah, switching directors for like every sketch you're working on. Yeah. That's awesome. What about for you guys, Alan?
For me, a lot of I mean, like this is the most ambitious project I've kind of like oversaw. So like I had to do a lot of like, because I did most of the editing, at least the final edit. So Bergs and Miranda, Bergs, I think you did 3 or 4 sketches you edited.
Yeah.
Hello. And then Miranda edited one, but everything else I edited. And then I also like put all of the tracks together, and I had to like just kind of manage this giant, because like the final project ended up being like 72 minutes long. I think it's a massive album, and it had initially like been like 78 minutes, which was like just too long to even put on like if we wanted to do physical mediums and stuff. So like having to find like minutes to cut out was difficult, and just kind of trying to like make the whole thing as cohesive as possible, and also like from a writing perspective how to do that. So like there'd be times where like we'd have a bunch of stuff written and like recorded, and then I'd listen to it and I'd go, something is missing here, and like just trying to like forensically go through and figure out, okay, what is it, what genre is it, what's the tone we're trying to set, what is missing. Like initially we didn't have that outro track like at the very end, and I was like, we need something to bookend this. And then like all those callbacks, like I like went through and I was like, because I wanted to have the whole thing kind of wrap up, and like going through all these callbacks like with the voicemails, it's very difficult to just kind of like make everything as cohesive as possible. So I guess just
it's a tall order, man, and you did a great job. Like so remind me, Alan, I know you said this is the biggest project that you worked on in this vein, but had you done any editing? Like, where did your editing experience come from before this?
Well, I went to film school at Grand Valley, so like I have a film degree, and I've done some editing. Like I took a sound, like I edited sound for like a feature film that they did once. Like I did a couple scenes, and like I've done like editing and stuff like that before, and I've like had to do like small like audio sketches type things, like just for like that type of class, but never anything where it's like this long, and like where I was like trying to like be like there'd always be like another director or something who was overseeing all of it, but like to actually try to like figure out all that and like the sequencing, like me and Berg spent I don't know how long just trying to figure out what order to put these tracks in and like how to like number them. Like does the intro thing where like he's reading what the tape thing is that supposed to be its own track, or is that supposed to just come at the end of the track? Like just small, every little decision like that had to be made by someone, and it was just kind of difficult to manage all of it.
Yeah, and had you worked on any you said film, but had you worked on anything that was like meant to be listened to as the final product?
Nothing that ever really got released like this. No.
What was it?
I mean, I did a podcast once before. So like me and Tim Lally did a podcast. We did like 18 episodes. It was
yeah, it's crazy though. Like, I mean, how was it like kind of thinking about in the sketches, you said you would kind of listen back to it and be like, oh, something's missing. Some of it has got to come from just like the difference between writing when you're picturing it on stage or as a visual thing versus like, are we getting it across just from the context of listening to it?
Yeah. Yeah. And like sound effects too. Like there'd be so many times where it's like just trying to make it feel like it's in that space without it being like just a cacophony of sounds where you can't actually hear the people talking. And just, I don't know. I'm not ever really even sure if I did like a super job of mixing it, because I'm not really a mixing guy, but I think I definitely learned a lot on this project.
Hell yeah. Yeah. It sounds great, man.
Yeah, sounds.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Incredible. Leading the production. Alex, how about you? Biggest things you learned along the process?
I had mostly done like just like music stuff, like goofy music things before, so it was like weird doing something that was like editing stuff that was like meant to be like a scene. I don't know. It's very different, I think, than music. And I had a lot of like video production, so I like kind of like get putting pieces of things where I want them to go, but it's still very different. It's like audio on video. When you're editing that, you don't feel. I feel like you're not as pressured to like make the audio sound as perfect as you do for a straight up audio thing.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I enjoy it very much, editing, even though it is tedious.
Yeah. You kind of have to enjoy it to do it, or you do it once and you're like, I will never fucking edit anything.
Yeah.
But okay, so I want to ask the next main question that I want to hear from everybody about is if you were to start again, or if you are going to do another album, what are some things that you would change, do differently, or make sure you keep the same? Before we get to that, though, I am also curious, because it's come up a couple times. Like Chris Peterson is your coach for Improv, but I had talked a little bit about this project with him. Bob and I had him on, and we were chatting to him about it. He thought it was so cool that one, that the group was working on it, and two, that you were self-directed as a group throughout the process. And he was very adamant that like, I don't want to know anything about it. I don't want to butt my nose in, because he's a fan of your work as well as being a coach, and so he was looking forward to like what you guys come up with, not having a designated coach or director, being a self-directed group. So what was that like for everybody? We mentioned a couple times with Jared and Alan, but like anybody else, just that feeling of kind of taking away the typical coach role. Did it make anything like more difficult, or did people like, oh, this is it's nice not to have a designated person in charge?
I think that it could. I thought it was going to be more difficult than it was, and this is as far as like the writing, just as we were all going in. But I think because we had worked together, and the initial expectation was just like present a sketch, so we could all come in with that. Like as long as we were continuing to come in with what the base expectation was for the group. But that doesn't mean that there are not like Alan and Berg's, like the amount of work that they put in, had no one stepped up and done that. So although it was not like directed by Chris Peterson, like Alan like led us the whole way. And he just stepped up to do that. So had we not had someone like that, it would have been much harder. I think we're just lucky, or I feel grateful for that aspect.
I guess I had done the Skip Parade show before, which I felt was a very similar process where everybody rehearsed their own sketches off on their own and like brought them to the show basically together. There wasn't like a full cohesive thing done in the background. It was just kind of like done at once on stage where everybody just like did their part. So I know that we're all people that pull our own weight, and I wasn't worried about it at all.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I remember Doug. There was one time when for the 24-hour sketch show during snow day that there was somebody assigned to be to direct the sketch show, but somebody got sick. Maybe Loria came down sick and had to go home, and she was supposed to direct or something. Whatever it was, we ended up without a director, and it was just an interesting dynamic because some people, like you said, Lauren, like do step up. But I remember Doug in particular being like, "Oh, it's kind of weird," or like interesting in a fun way to be like, "There's no boss," so to speak. And even if it is people stepping up and taking the lead, it has a different feel than having like an assigned director or whatever. It just changes things. So it's interesting to hear about.
I think because there was no assigned boss to the album, we got to put a lot of really twisted and disgusting stuff on it that Peterson just really wouldn't have allowed us to.
Puritan.
Yeah, that's funny. There's no like fight. It's just you as a group that's kind of in charge of whether or not you censor the content. So it's not you're like, right. I'll put the sketch on here. That's hilarious. Some comments. A lot of people focusing on Devin for some reason. I just want to let you know that you're on the radio.
Hi, Pete.
And Carrie Sue would like some recordings of your
Jesus.
Devin, it was just her birthday. She doesn't ask for much.
The mic, unfortunately, is out of view of the camera. I apologize.
And also Julia watching from the other room. Okay, so let's get to that next question, which is if you were to start this project again now, what would you change? What would you keep the same?
Well, I'll say when we originally started the project, I thought we were gonna poop this out a lot quicker than we did. So I wish I would have maybe spent more time writing my sketch. I know for sure, and I would have. I think mine was the first one we recorded, right? And that was probably like in May or even April.
My God.
I think most of them were recorded on May. You can listen to the sketch. It'll actually tell you. So like all the little like before each sketch, like there's like he reads a title like DB DJ 528 or something like that. That actually has a meaning. So DB is the bureau, and then DJ would have been like Devin Jenkins, and then like 528 would have been like May 28th. So
cool.
you can actually
yeah.
You can, yeah. I put too much thought into this.
Easter eggs abundant. Oh,
Wow.
But yeah, I think everything was in May. Sorry, go ahead, Devin.
Oh no, but yeah, I think I would have spent more time recording my sketch too. I kind of wish we maybe done more takes for mine. And the other one was I would have actually liked to explore, I guess, the audio element of the album more in my sketch, incorporating some sort of some bigger element or comedic element that I could use audio with. I didn't really put that thought into it.
Which one is your sketch?
Party sub. Training party sub sketch. Yeah.
It's perfect. I mean,
I like it.
I think that sketch is great. I don't know.
We could have went to the Super Bowl. Oh man.
So
spoilers. My bad.
and then, what was the actual, like, from starting production to finishing? What was that amount of time? Do you guys know, like, when the first
beginning of May till the end of July or early August?
Yeah, that sounds right.
And that would have been from like the first meeting for like writing and brainstorming or whatever else.
Yeah, I think we might have met even in April.
We had only one real writing meeting, right?
Yeah.
We basically had one meeting. Everyone read a sketch or two, and we all got feedback, did a second draft, and then I think we just started recording, right? Everyone just kind of filled out a spreadsheet, or there's a casting document that went out, and then whoever wrote the sketch was kind of responsible for coordinating when it was going to get recorded, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of how that process worked.
Yeah, and I looked at our spreadsheet. So the first party sub was recorded on the 19th of May. So the first one was recorded 19th of May. The last one was like sometime in July. It was like the epilogue with me and Roseney. Roseney. Now you got me saying his name wrong.
I'm so glad he's not here to hear you say that now.
When you don't show up, your last name gets misread. That's the rules of the podcast. Sorry.
And then Alan, you know when the I'm just moving on the minutia, but like when was everything finalized with the audio and ready for upload?
A couple weeks ago, I think. Kind of towards the beginning of August, but there was still like little things like because towards the beginning of August everything was like together, but was at a point where like it was too long and it was just trying to figure out where to make cuts and like what to cut and like because I didn't want it, like everyone had a sketch in this, and then there was all that like the surrounding stuff. So like the sketches that everyone wrote was like the tapes, you know, and then all the other stuff was like written mostly by me. And then like also another part of that was like trying to figure out like, am I taking up too much space in this thing? So like that was like a big concern that I had because I didn't want that. I wanted this to be the Bureau's album. I didn't want this to be the Me album. And that's kind of like a feeling I kept having just because I had written so many sketches around it. I felt like I was maybe taking up too much space within the album itself. So trying to find places I could cut.
Yeah. And then it's tricky too, to be like what are the stories and also like what's fair? Like,
yeah. And like also like it got hard to make cuts at that time too because like towards the end of the album is almost like Harold like in that like it starts making a bunch of connections and bringing a bunch of callbacks and mixing things up a lot. And like if you like cut out a sketch or cut the wrong part out of a sketch, then that callback doesn't even mean anything anymore. Right. So you don't want to ruin the callback, but you don't want the original sketch to be too long. It gets a tough juggling act.
Yeah. So it's about 3 months of recording and editing, and then maybe another month on top of that of or 2 to 4
polishing.
Well, initial meetings. Okay, let's get back to the question of things that you would want to keep the same that really worked, or things that you would do differently if you had another run at it right now.
I mean, going off Devin's thing, I wish I had polished my sketch up a little bit more before the recording process, or like maybe had a few more smaller writing meetings, just because having 9 people on a stream all trying to give feedback on a sketch was just sort of like a limitation of, not being able to be in like a physical space together. It's kind of harder to give notes or to kind of ask for specific feedback, just because, there is a little bit of, learning to figure out how to communicate, just doing a video chat. So maybe, I just meeting in person would have helped a lot, but I mean, that's something I don't think.
Yeah, when you can, I'll do some of it in person.
Yeah. Or maybe just, have maybe some like smaller writing meetings, kind of, 2 or 3 people getting feedback rather than, 8 other people. So that's something I would
trade off for director versus not having a director. Who else? Things that you would definitely keep the same or change?
I think I definitely would have made it shorter. Just because there did end up being 20 tracks. It ended up just kind of becoming a monster. So
I hear what you're saying, but I kind of disagree, because the album overall isn't that long, and each scene's only about 3 minutes long, give or take, and they go by so fast. Like and honestly, right now everybody's looking for entertainment. I listened to it while I was walking. I got my steps in for the day. I loved it. It was great. So I wouldn't have cut anything. Honestly, I think
make it longer.
Yeah.
Yeah. The one thing that kept me
could make a 4-hour-long track so I can get all my steps in. That'd be dope.
A De Bureau double album?
Oh yeah. Intermission in the middle with an orchestra.
Well, so let me ask you, Alan, because time is such a it's like it's not really the note, right? Is like, what is it about time that we feel like we need to really adhere to? In like, why does this live stream need to be an hour in my mind? Like, why have Bob and I dedicated it to being like our episode 45 minutes? Like, who cares? But like, what is the time element that you would want to make it like shorter? Is it just it feels like that fits the medium better, is to have more bite-sized stuff, or what?
I couldn't even really say. Just like it, things kind of tend towards like people liking stuff that's shorter. So, but I mean, at the same time, I was able to justify it, because I was like, if I went to a sketch show at Go Comedy and it's only like 30 minutes, a lot of times I feel like this is too short. Like if I see an hour and 10-minute show there, I'm like, I got my money's worth. Like I feel good about it. So like, I didn't really feel that bad. Like I felt like everything that we left on the album should have been there, and I don't feel like there's anything that I really would ever cut completely. Nothing at all. I wanted to keep every single sketch, so like I felt good about it, but at the same time, I was like, what if we wanted to sell this as a CD? Well, now you're forced into like 74 minutes maximum, and if we wanted, we floated the idea of having physical tapes, but then it's like 60 minutes, and it, what do we do if we want to put it on a cassette tape, just like to have as a joke? I don't know.
Yeah.
For no one to play it, because no one has a cassette tape anymore. Well, you can just write the Bureau on a tape, and no one's going to be able to play it. They just have to take your word that the content's on there.
Well, we want to put it on cassette tapes.
Yeah.
Amazing.
What if we want to get some reel-to-reel going? And
yeah, I feel it. It is a tricky thing, and maybe even more so because there isn't a true limit in the digital realm. Is like, now you have to question what is too long, and it's not determined by any physical ability to play something back or hold all the info.
Yeah.
Who else? Alex and Lauren, stuff you would change or keep the same?
Well, one thing that I've already made sure to remedy in case I were to do this in the future is I got a much better mic. Because I thought I just had horrible room acoustics and my voice kept like having like a weird tin can sound to it. And
that's just your voice, Bert.
I just thought it better. Yeah. No one ever told me my voice sounded like a tin can.
Oh no.
But you upgraded to a new. You would upgrade your gear.
Oh yeah, I mean, it sounds way better than the old mic that I had. It wasn't very expensive either.
You said it wasn't very expensive to upgrade?
It wasn't really. I don't know. It was like relatively cheap. I thought I was gonna have to spend over $100 to get like a decent one, but this one was like very highly rated and relatively cheap.
Yeah, it's wild how big of a difference a mic can make, especially within that $100 range. Like every dollar makes a nice little difference. I think eventually it's like how much of a difference between like $200 and $300. But yeah, if you just get a mic with that in mind, we can make a big difference. That's great.
Yeah. I think in that same vein, if we did it again, making sure everyone had like similar equipment or similar setup would go a long way. Cause like there were certain sketches that were like much harder to edit because like some of us didn't have like good mics at all, or like we're recording bits on our phone. Like the Names Wallace sketch, a big part of why Berg set that as a vinyl record was because for some reason the way that Jenny had recorded was like extremely tinny sounding. So I think you just work that around to make it work. Yeah. Like we had to do special things to make certain sketches work, just and like change things up just because of the limitations of the equipment.
I think that one's a happy accident, though. I love how that one sounds.
Yeah, it does sound. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, again, just a great job justifying that in the medium. Like I totally get the challenges, but it adds.
Which brings us back to like the bonuses of doing this as an audio album. Like you can have happy accidents and they sound incredible. It adds to the sketch too.
Yeah. Yeah, and all you have to do is say that it's final and add a little thing. It's like, as opposed to on stage, if you wanted to totally change the context, you might be looking at like set pieces or costumes. Yeah. How about for you, Lauren?
Mostly the same as far as like I would definitely try to get a better mic or use a better mic and play so much more with the audio elements. I mean, I thought about it a little bit, and I do think it's a sketch that would have been much different if it were on stage. And I think it's way cooler as an audio sketch. And still, if we did it again, or if I did something similar again, where there's not sort of like a head director, I would demand that someone review my sketch and critically give me feedback. We did give each other feedback. Well, we're still peers in a group. So it's different than going to someone else. So I would definitely do that.
Your sketch is so great, though. I still get that my wife's gonna stab me in my head.
That is a great one. And then Lauren, when you say play with the audio element more, do you mean like write more into it? Things like sound effects or sound design?
Yeah, I mean, part of that, so much of the cool audio from my sketch came from like the editing that Bergs did and making it sound a way that I couldn't have even imagined. But yeah, I would play more with like, just like literally what can I do that I could not do on stage? Because ultimately if that sketch could be on stage, it would be different, but I would try to do something that is just only works in audio because the wildest stuff is happening.
Yeah,
I would try to push myself to write a different kind of sketch that literally couldn't be done on stage or like without a big production.
Yeah, that is I suppose that's a really again like a positive look at you have to, or I should say you can't use a stage right now, and instead of like just translating it to be like, well, I'm going to do something that I couldn't do on stage anyway, even if I could.
It's too good for the stage. That's what I heard.
There you go.
Yeah, that is a great challenge. So, is the group talking about doing others? I mean, you phrased it as debut album, so that's kind of a hint that you'd like to do more.
If we want sequels. I mean, Carrie Sue doesn't ask for much. And I think she would like a sequel. I shouldn't speak for her.
Carrie Sue says editors are essential workers, which I think is a great slogan for people in production. But yeah, so you just released this literally today.
Yeah.
Are there any general plans or intentions to do another album anytime soon?
I mean, we don't have anything, I don't think, locked in the can and ready to roll on right now. But I think, especially if this, if it continues where we just are staying at home still and the theaters aren't opening back up, I mean, this is the best way that I can see right now to continue working as a group and be creative, is to release content that's, something that you can release, like a big project, and something that like you can really just work on a lot and be proud of. Like doing a sketch show. You can't put a sketch show up on stage right now. So
yeah.
Well, I hope to see more. I love
Absolutely.
the album, and y'all did a great job with it. And
yeah, it's a lot of fun. Sounds fantastic. You guys did an incredible job. Everybody, yeah.
Okay, so the Bureau obviously just releasing this album is the main news, but do you individually have things to plug in the virtual world that you want to give shout outs to right now? Good. Pat.
Alan's
if not, that's totally fine too. But go ahead.
Yeah. I would plug that. Alan's babies.
Wait. What?
She's plugging my baby. Coming August 31st.
The first Bureau baby of hundreds.
The debut Bureau baby is coming.
We're all trying.
Photos and a live stream first week of September. Yeah, that is really exciting, Alan. You got a baby on the way.
Right.
And so, but I mean, babies aside, no other stuff to plug.
Babies aside.
Okay, great.
What do you think there's gonna be? There's nothing to do right now, James.
I don't know. Alan can plug Go Labs for us. Jeez.
Oh yeah, Go Labs, GoComedy.net, tpublic.com/GoComedy. Go buy a shirt. I don't.
Babies aside, go buy a shirt.
Keep the theater running. We want a theater to go back. Do you think we want to be making albums? No, we want to be on stage.
I'm going to throw this link back up here again. The album is De Bureau by De Bureau, and it is available exclusively on Bandcamp. Make sure that you buy it so that Alan has a place to escape to once he's in baby world.
Babies are loud and they scream a lot. I need to go to a theater and so I don't have to have a baby.
Alan needs to put that baby aside and get on a stage like God intended. Okay?
Yeah. And also just know if you're watching right now, you're watching us either on Improv FAQ's YouTube or Facebook. And we also exist on Instagram. You can also email us with suggestions of topics or suggested guests at improvfaq@gmail.com. And we are also a podcast. We are with Gabber Media. All of our most up-to-date content is going to be on YouTube and Facebook, the video recordings of our conversations. But we are, except for the live episodes, current to date with the podcast releases as well. So you can find us on any platform that offers podcasts, Improv FAQ at length. Once again, thanks so much for joining the Bureau.
Yes, thank you.
Thank
Fantastic job,
you.
everybody.
And we will catch you next time on Improv FAQ at length. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.